Hello, everybody. This is the Boots to the Boardroom podcast with the Catalyst program. My name is Blake Miles. You're joined by Jacob Echols and Staci Swindler, and this is episode 1. So we're going to be introducing ourselves and telling you about what the Catalyst program is, what our goals are as a program, and where we're going to be going with this podcast. So first, I just want to introduce our guests. Well, not our guests; they're going to be our running hosts. So Jacob, Staci, say hello.
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 How are you guys doing today?
Doing well.
Doing well. So we're working out some of the kinks on this, but I think we got it figured out, and things are going well. So we're just going to jump right in and go to the goal of this show is we're going to be educating veterans and allies of veterans about what the Catalyst program is and what we're aiming to accomplish with it. And so Jacob has been around longer than I have, and I wanted to bring on Staci and Jacob and give them a few minutes to introduce themselves and explain what attracted them to the Catalyst program and what caught their eye about it and how they got involved. And we'll circle back around and we'll talk more about how it all ties together and what we're going to be doing in the future. So, Jacob, tell me a little bit about your background, where you come from, and how you got involved with the Catalyst program.
Wow, I've been around for a little longer than you, huh? What do
You're the old man. You're the old man. Well, you're an old man of the house. I'm just casually watching.
Yeah. Well, going to the military certainly didn't help my bones. I feel older than probably I am. So yeah, Jacob Echols. I originally am from Texas. I joined the United States Air Force, however you want to look at that. I was on the other side of it though. I ended up being a TACP. I joined in 2003, right at the start of everything. I got selected to go to TACP, which is, for all of you who may or may not know, we were the guys running around with the Army out there calling in airstrikes, that sort of thing.
Thanks, by the way.
Yeah, got some Army friends that really, named their children after me.
We love you guys,
especially after Fallujah. No, I mean, I was involved in quite a bit of stuff. I went over about a half a dozen times, mainly to Iraq. But yeah, I mean, I got to go to such nice places as Fort Hood. And then I went to Lijiangbu to Camp Red Cloud to escape Fort Hood. And then put me back to Fort Riley, where I did a lot of work, mainly with the Big Red One. That was probably almost half of the 10 years was just there. So I really liked it, even though there's nothing in Kansas.
Yeah, it's pretty flat from what I remember. I never went to that base, but I've driven through. And it's flat. Can confirm.
That's all you really want. That's about all you really should do is drive through and continue on. I'm not dogging it. I liked Riley. Riley was a good base. But, I got out at 10 years. I punched it, eject. Got out, got my bachelor's, and then went on to work in logistics with XPO and did that for a few years. And then we went out to Cincinnati. I was in North Carolina at the time. I was XPO and became a transportation broker for a few years. And COVID came around and kind of screwed the transportation stuff up. And I was kind of figuring out what I wanted to do. And that's when I met Dan through networking, Dan Hance, who's the CEO of the Catalyst. I went through the cohort back in August through that. So I've been an actual graduate through the program, which put me on track to start my MBA program, which I'm now doing through Purdue. So we're doing the networking thing, and Dan was like, "Hey, I know you're looking for something else," because I was a little bit tired of the transportation thing. I had 3 small children. I have twin boys. They're almost 2. So I was trying to find something else, and he said, "I'm going to be greedy, and I want you to come work for me in marketing and recruiting, sales experience and whatnot." And so that's what brought me here, and that's what I've been doing for the last 6-7 months while going through the MBA program.
Awesome. And so tell us, how's that MBA program been going? I know you've been busy. Not only do you got the twin boys and the the twin boys chasing you around, but you also got the MBA program. So how's that been?
Right. So it's a lot of work for sure. it's finally going to slow down a little bit. They front in a lot of the courses. So the last 6 months have been nose to the grindstone, but for all the, the vets out there that are interested in pursuing education, it's very doable.
Yeah.
We don't have the best backgrounds for like math and some of the quantifiable like stuff, but when you get into the soft skills and talking to people and whatever, turns out we're really, really qualified on that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I think those soft skills is kind of the key, or one of the key things that we can circle around and focus on. That it goes back to the translation issue. That we'll keep talking more about that. But that was thank you for your introduction, Jacob.
Sure.
I got a quick question for Jacob. How did the Catalyst help you in getting into the master's program? And when you went through the Catalyst program, like, did it help guide you in any particular way, like in what you thought you might do with that master's?
Right. So we'll talk a lot about this, I think, throughout our podcast. It's going to be a main theme as far as finding your why. It's a core tenet of the Catalyst. But one thing else it did is it kind of put me on, it gave me an idea of trying to get out of the transportation job I was in. And I'm not going to say the company's name or whatever. It doesn't matter. They were a very good company. Probably the best I could ever work for in that industry. But it wasn't necessarily a good fit for what I was trying to do. I didn't really talk to people much outside of the brokerage type. So I wanted to get back more into a leadership management type role where I was working with people, because I do like that. So I reoriented my mind in that aspect. And with COVID kind of gave me that extra, well, I'm just sitting here at home, working from home anyway. So I was able to take that step. And the Catalyst reoriented my mindset and kind of motivated me to make that change. But then they actually did help me get into Purdue because there was a open house thing that was available that I wasn't aware of. So I was able to take advantage of that. And then, like 2 weeks later, I was in the program that started in September. I mean, the month of August saw me change jobs, careers, as well as the master's. And the reason really why I went for the master's is I needed another, maybe call it like an academic pedigree, another thing to go with what I've already have going for me. Sitting here with, 18 years, almost 2 decades of experience in a couple of different industries.
Very good. Very good. Well, I was thinking, like, of all the things that you picked up going through the Catalyst program, what was, in your mind, the most valuable thing that you picked up so far?
Right. So one of the bigger connections is going to be, you're going to get back into working and being around military veterans again, which anyone who, once you get out, a lot of veterans, they just get completely disconnected. Some of them, they stay close or whatever, but a lot of them, we move away, we go do our own thing. And if you're getting back to being around veterans again and hanging out, and that connection was probably the most helpful thing for me, because we forget how valuable that is to us, and how, I wouldn't say different, but how well we connect with people
who've been through the similar experiences.
Right. So a lot of veterans, and I know this personally, when you go and you do your job interviews or you start your college, it's all an unknown, and no one likes being in that uncomfortable position. But more than anything, when you get into these spaces, and whether you believe in stories or you hear things like the differences of civilians, it does cause a certain level of uncomfortableness for sure, because you don't know where the boundaries are. So you don't know, you can't show them the true weird like you, or you have to be careful what you say. And I say that and I'm joking with you, but I mean, it's
true. It's legit.
There's certainly some value in understanding that. And so I think veterans at times can feel very intimidated by it, which, it's almost comical when you really get into this mindset, or you go in and you start working with these people and you realize that they're just normal people too. Some of them even have the same type of dark sense of humor that we do.
That's always comforting fun.
You'll find them. They're out there. So it's not, but it's a hard road to get that point. And
So does Staci, or you got any other questions for Jacob? Because you're next in the hot seat, Staci.
Uh-oh.
Nothing? All right.
Nothing.
So, all right. Jacob, excellent work. You're gonna have to ask me some good questions too when you come around to me. All right.
Oh, I've got it.
All right, good. So, Staci, same question to you. Give us a little bit about your background. Where do you come from? You know, what makes you tick, and how did you wind up in this boat?
Like any typical military brat, when you say, where do you come from? Like, do you want the long answer or the short one?
You got about a couple minutes for the
okay.
We'll see where it goes.
Short answer, I'm from Newfoundland, Canada. Long answer, I'm from all over Eastern Canada with my parents who were both in the Canadian Air Force. So yeah, traveled around a lot. My experience isn't quite as cool or interesting as Blake or Jacob's experiences because they were in the military. So I would consider myself the more boring part of this show.
You're the calm that keeps us from coming unglued.
I'm the calm that makes sure you guys don't go too crazy.
Yeah, you're the boundaries. You're the boundaries that Jacob was talking about.
Yeah. Oh, now I'm really bored. So yeah, moving around a lot with my parents. We moved actually almost every single year. So I've been to like 8 different schools, not including post-secondary. Seeing my parents go through the military, and they're both retired now. I saw what the military can do to your mental health, not only through my parents, but just in growing up with people whose parents were, you know, going to and from. Bosnia was the big place when I was a kid. Obviously Afghanistan, my parents have been there, and lots of my friends' parents have been there. So after high school, I enrolled to get my undergrad. Something that you guys don't really have in the US as far as I'm aware of. It's an honors degree bachelor, which means we have to do like research almost like you do in your master's program. But it's still a bachelor, but it's very different in Canada compared to like a normal bachelor. I don't know. I hope that makes sense. Yep. So I did that, and then the plan was to get my master's in social work, but I got a job working for veterans in the military. In the Canadian military, I was paid by the Canadian Department of National Defence and Canadian Veterans Affairs Canada to provide support to family members whose military family member or veteran was suffering a operational stress injury, is what we called it. So it was kind of any kind of mental health effects from their service. And that was the plan, to basically do that forever. Like you said, Jacob, it's just different. You know, military life is different whether you're the veteran or the family member or spouse. And to be able to go to work and to be around that same environment for me on the mental health side was it's just like this understanding everyone has, where you don't even have to say it. You just like feel it and know it when you're talking to each other. And like you guys laughed when I said, you know, do you want the long or short answer to where I'm from? You guys know what that means right away, but your average person who didn't grow up around it doesn't really know. So fast forward a few years, I live in the United States in lovely Indiana, and I am walking in my future community where I just bought a lot with my husband. And Dan is walking down, also looking at a lot to maybe purchase. So he literally walked into our lives. Jacob, kind of like you were explaining, he just kind of appeared. And Dan is the CEO of the program, as Jacob mentioned. So Dan kind of walked into my life the same way as he appeared in Jacob's life, which is kind of funny, very serendipitous. And he started talking about the program and how it was something to do with veterans. And the day that we met Dan, I wasn't looking for work, and I wasn't necessarily working either. And I kind of was listening to him, but I'll be honest, I wasn't fully listening to what he was saying. So I didn't have a good grasp of what the program did. All I heard was blah, 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 veterans, blah, blah, blah. And it was my husband who said, you know, you should really call him. It sounds like stuff you used to do, and you never stopped talking about your job in Canada and how amazing it was and how much you love working with veterans and families, because I do. And eventually we had a dinner with Dan where I really got to understand what the Catalyst program was and what they did. And I almost get anxious thinking about the fact that I almost didn't call them back. Like, I didn't want, if they wanted to go to dinner, I was going to do it. But like, I really wasn't, after that first conversation, I was not thinking like, oh, that might be something they'll do. But as soon as I talked to him at the dinner and learned a bit more, and along with us was, I always say his name wrong. Jesse,
yeah.
Jesse, yes. I always say Jerry, but Jesse was there. And I heard Jesse's story. He's a former graduate as well, I'm pretty sure. And he talked about the Catalyst and his understanding and experience. And from that point on, it was like, okay, I need to get involved. This sounds perfect. And basically that Monday, I was going to meetings and helping wherever I could. And here we are.
Awesome.
Yeah, Jesse's a former Navy SEAL and yes, Catalyst graduate, who's also starting his MBA program at Purdue this week, maybe. I'll have to check with him.
Very cool.
Awesome.
So, and you mentioned something, the operational stress. It's the
operational stress.
Yeah, the corollary to the American or the PTSD or PTS, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, so PTSD like would fall under the umbrella, but we didn't want to just call it PTSD, the PTSD program, because if they had like signs of PTSD, but maybe it was more like depression or more anxiety, it's like we're kind of all encompassing. So like anything going on, definitely 99% of it was PTSD, but we didn't want to kind of cut anyone off, and
that makes sense.
And it worked out. Yeah.
So, Jacob, before I ask, you got any questions that come to mind?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So the one thing I was thinking, once you talked to Jesse, it seems like that was kind of the pun intended catalyst.
The turning
pun
point.
Intended catalyst.
Yeah, the catalyst.
Very nice. So what do you specifically like? What do you think that like? What about his story do you think?
I've told everybody I talked to about the program, my friends and stuff. It's actually his story that I use to give the 5-second overview of what the Catalyst does. So Jesse's story, and I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying, he was a Navy SEAL diver. I think he was in for, was it 25 years or 30?
Yeah, he retired.
25?
I don't know how many, but he was there.
I know it was over 20 years, so he knew what he was doing, as any Navy SEAL does.
He's going to have to be the next guest, I think.
Awesome. That's even better that he's the next guest. But so yeah, he was a retired Navy SEAL diver, and when he goes to Mexico, if he wants to rent some scuba gear and they say, well, can you show us your PADI certificate? And he's like, well, no, I don't have my flippin' PADI certificate. I'm just a extremely experienced Navy diver. Like, my experience to speak for itself. But in the corporate world and in the quote unquote real world, military experience doesn't always translate in the right way. Even if you may be more experienced in many areas, it's just really difficult to translate your experience in the military to the corporate world, or quote unquote real world in Jesse's example. So when people retire or leave the military and they're looking for jobs, like translating their resume is so difficult, and veterans often end up underemployed, which is well known. And the Catalyst program aims to bridge that gap, help translate that past military experience into words and ways for the corporate world to understand, but also offers the opportunity for veterans to go in and intern more or less in a few various different businesses. Well, so if
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead. Yes. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You're in my space now. Yeah. So
yes, that's good.
Well, it's a couple of different things. So we bring corporate partners into the classroom, because I think if anyone, we haven't really discussed in detail what the Catalyst is necessarily, but you are earning college credits while taking the course, but we're also bringing in corporate partners who may be presenting like a case study or something for veterans to look at for solutions. But you're also getting exposure to these people in this industry. And if you have a connection with them, or if you're interested in that industry, we make the connection for you. We put you in front of them. And then, the good thing about this is, obviously, if they're going to come and join the Catalyst, as a partner or even just to come in to discuss what they do, they're going to be interested in hiring veterans, which the bottom line is most companies are. And it's not to fill a quota or whatever as protected class the veterans are. No, it's because veterans have solid work ethics, and they have a lot of things in soft interpersonal skills we've spoken about that don't always translate well from for the veterans perspective. That's why we're there to try to help them. But when we put them into the mindset of, when you did this in the military, this is how it translates in the civilian world, suddenly, light bulbs go off and the veteran understands the connection so they can speak to it. And suddenly, instead of being hesitant to talk to these people, they start telling them the things they've done. And now it's the other person, the corporate partner, who's a little bit astonished because they didn't realize the breadth of experience that this person who was maybe shy at first had, and suddenly it's an entirely different conversation.
Yeah, I think that the translate word that keeps coming up has been the one that's been hitting me the most too. And I'll talk more about this, but after my introduction. But definitely getting that translation piece down in both the minds of the veteran and the employer, it seems to be one of the most important functions that the Catalyst program has been, building out.
Yeah. Yeah. More than anything, it's about when we go back to finding the why, which we talk a lot about, or I do, it's trying to get the veteran to track how that transition occurs, to try to alleviate some of the pain points of the transition.
And when you say transition, I don't think we've really said it out loud yet. You mean the transition into the corporate world, right?
Well, post-military, yes.
Oh, yeah.
So, I got out in 2013, and the transition for me was I went to college for 1 year, online to double and triple up courses so I can get it done as fast as I can. And that was probably the best thing for me to do coming right out after yet another deployment, that one to Afghanistan. And then 6 months later, they cut me loose. I needed to be in my basement reading stuff and being in quiet time because I was not ready to go into a corporate office and hang out with people and have someone, complain about they didn't like this version of Starbucks coffee, where I'm like, that's whatever. It's pointless. It's relevant.
You were ready at that time for the program I used to work for.
Right. So, for me, it was, they always ask me, some people ask me a bad day to me is having a grenade thrown at you. You don't have a bad day. You haven't had a bad day, but you can't say that to people because you're either you're going to kind of marginalize them and kind of make them feel bad, which they know. If they've known you for more than 5 minutes, they know that you've probably, if you tell them you've gone to Iraq or whatever, then every war movie in their head goes off, and then they think you're either some kind of crazy killer or some kind of you're put on a pedestal as this immortal badass, if you will. And some of us,
which is equally as destructive, it can be.
Or they just the common question is oh, how many people did you kill? That's really not why I wanted to talk to you. I was actually going to ask you if you could give me this report. I need some help on this, but thank you for asking me about a very terrible question. So it is it's managing those relationships too, but coming out of it eventually, some veterans, they need that. And, going right into a course that's taught by veterans, that the course is managed by veterans, and they're in a space with veterans. It makes the transition easier because it's not TAP, which anyone who's gone through TAP, and I'm not dogging it, but let's just say that it's inadequate. It doesn't really prepare you. They check boxes because they have to. That's the way the government programs work. Let's be honest. So there's something left to be desired, So what we're trying to alleviate is that transition while also preparing them for their next career and not job. We don't want them underemployed. We want them in a valued career so they stay and they're happy. And we're trying to cut those years of
trial and error.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds very similar to how my thinking has been on this. I'll jump into maybe this was not the best way to, maybe I should have went first. Who cares? But anyway, I'll go into my introduction. We'll lay it out, and then I think we can finish off and we can circle back around and talk more about just specifically what the Catalyst program is and how we see it, and just where we see it going in the next, where the podcast is going next, and where the what's coming down the road for the Catalyst program. So real quick, my name's Blake Miles. I'm a former Green Beret. I enlisted into the Army back in 2002 as a Special Forces recruit. So I went right into infantry basic and airborne school, and then the selection. Made it through the course in 2004 as an engineer. I went to First Special Forces Group in Washington, spent some time out there, went to Iraq in 2006, got promoted on the team to do some intelligence work, do the 18 Fox or Special Forces Engineer Sergeant job for a little while. Really enjoyed the intel side of things, and but eventually got out of active duty, spent some time in the National Guard, did some recruiting, started learning social media while I was there, and then I got out completely in 2011 and started going to school full-time, working towards my bachelor's. But as I was doing that, I started doing social media volunteer work for the Green Beret Foundation, and that led me towards eventually helping out build a program to help Green Berets transition out of active duty. And while I was doing that, I noticed, I started, in addition to the problems that I had trying to go through transition, not knowing how to make it work exactly, and how to get that translation piece and translate my background into something that was useful. I noticed some of the bigger problems that seemed to be going on. And it's, the thing that bothered me most, that got me a lot of traction actually, was I started writing for a company called SoftRep, and I wrote an article about going through the experience of going through a college counselor's office with a special forces background. And it was one of the few articles I ever put emotion into, because I was I walked out of that kind of heated, not at the counselor. It's just, I was mad at the whole system. I don't like red tape. So, I'm in there and they're like, hey, you got to get all this and this and this class. And, the one that set me off the most was international communications. And, yeah, they're like, hey, you got to take this international communications. It's about, you need to learn how to, properly understand other cultures and the differences, and navigate those differences. And I'm like, well, I took 6 months of in-depth Filipino Tagalog language, and I tested out at the 2-2, and then I learned a bunch of Arabic over in Iraq, and I led Iraqi army troops in Arabic without a translator on operation. So I think I got it. But no, because there's red tape, and there's no way past the red tape. So I wrote that article, and it actually got me invited to a TEDx talk out in Penn State, Berks University, their campus over there. So that was cool. And it's actually still up on YouTube. It's got more, there's a lot of views there that I was surprised the last time I looked at it. So that's cool. But the most important thing is it helped me to understand the problem set at a deeper level. And then, so 2015, the next Ridgeline program, or the transition program with the Green Beret Foundation, that ends. And, fast forward a few years, I learn about Bitcoin, and I go down some rabbit holes, and I've been a stay-at-home dad primarily. But speaking of Dan, just, strolling into your life, same thing happened to me. Only he actually tried to reach out on LinkedIn about like a year ago, and I haven't been on LinkedIn in a while, although until recently. But apparently he tried to reach out to me, and I missed it. But then I got in touch with the Catalyst program website through the Special Forces Association chapter here in Indiana, and jumped on there and read what the Catalyst program was. And I thought to myself, my God, this is exactly what I hoped I could build at the next Ridgeline. This sounds exactly what I wanted to do. So, I put in I typed up a little, explanation about myself and hit submit. And then, within an hour, I'm getting a call from Dan, saying, we got to meet. I'm going to come up there. We're going to meet you. So I met with Dan, and he told me what he was building. And, the timing was right. Let's put it that way. And it was something that I knew that I'm passionate about this topic because I still kind of like my driving force has been, this is what I wish I had access to when I got out of active duty, because I think it would have made things a lot smoother. So that's, that brings us to now, and that's me.
That's awesome. Wait, I think you forgot one interesting part of your background. Were you not one of the youngest? Finish my sentence for me.
Yeah, Dan throws that one and introduces me. So one of the youngest Green Berets since the Vietnam era, and that's because of the 18 X-ray, their Special Forces Recruit Program. So after 9/11, they opened this up to allow people to enlist as Green Beret, or with the option of attending selection. So you're not guaranteed anything. You just get a shot to go to selection as long as you don't quit. So, I was 17 when I enlisted, graduated basic training, I got my Green Beret when I was 19. So I got it was like a couple years after training. Awesome. So yeah, the average age is usually about 25, 26 on a team. My first team sergeant was older than my dad. That was somewhat awkward, but funny. The first team room I walked into, they're like, "My God, dude, what did you bring your son to work today? You got him a uniform. That's adorable." So it was good though. You grow up quick, but yeah, I grew up quick. I'll put it that way.
Oh, that's awesome.
So unless you guys got questions for me, we can circle back around and we can start to close this out and come up with next plans.
I would probably want to do a little description of like the Catalyst program, like a quick overview.
Well, I had a question.
Sure.
Yeah.
What's your favorite flavor in the crayon box?
Well, dark green generally is my favorite flavor. However, it leaves your teeth messy, so you gotta go with some of the lighter colors.
All right, more of an urban consumer.
Fair enough.
Thing. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. You got to worry about the aesthetics. You always got to think, how do I look in this situation? Am I eating too many crowns? Yeah, it's good. It's a good question.
What? What's yours then?
I was in Air Force.
Jacob.
I didn't eat crowns.
They don't eat crowns. They sit in air conditioning. They don't have to.
Yeah, we fly them in boxes and then they're boxes of crayons, the 8-packs, the big ones.
So wait, say you don't know about the Marines eat crayons joke, or the infantry eats crayons jokes?
No, I'm sure in Canada we have our own versions, but yeah, I don't know.
Okay, yeah, we're a bunch of crowns. We eat crowns because we're knuckle draggers. That's
self-propelled sandbags. I worked with the infantry a lot, so we know all the good jokes.
It's the translation piece.
I got the back to prove it.
Yeah, that's the worst one. So, all right, so we'll jump in. We'll wrap it all up, and in my mind, the most important thing about the Catalyst program is the translation piece of taking the skills that someone had in the military and translating that into something that the business world can say, I see how that translates into potential profit or, reduced expenses, something in terms of the business world. And once that clicks, then all other things from there can flow. But that was what stands out to me most. Jacob, what do you think?
Well, I mean, the translation problem obviously is key. I've been asked and told the story a few times where I went in one of my first job interviews and I'd written up my resume and it was fairly good. I had somebody help me, a company help me. So they had a decent job translating, but a bullet that caught the attention of one of the recruiters was something I did in Afghanistan, where I was a program director for all the JTACs rotating in for, I think it was 11 different countries. And I was a staff sergeant and it was a senior billet, but I was getting out. So it was just, they gave me an easy job, I guess, but I did have to work with French and Norwegian and all this. And I did manage about 400 people in Regional Command East. And when you break it down into this bullet, it looks insane. And they looked at it and they're like, "This, you did this?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, that was what I did in 2012 or whatever." They're like, "This is, like you're overqualified. I can't handle you. Like, you're out of here. Like, good job, good luck. Go find a better job." And I'm like, "I just need a job. Like, that's so you did like it or you didn't on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe not so much. Like, what can A/B test here? Like, what did I do good? So it was one of those things where it was just like, oh, okay, well, thank you, I guess, for saying that. So, it is a translation thing. And now what we're trying to do is manage how veterans go into these conversations, and had I known what I know now, I would have been able to talk my way through that and gotten through a little bit easier. Our turnaround and just say, "Oh, clearly you guys, sorry, I was going to take your job," sort of thing, and just kind of get my dig into it, as opposed to just being kind of like I got smacked between the eyes because I didn't really understand what just happened. So,
very interesting.
Yeah,
Staci, what do you think?
I think the most amazing thing, on top of what you guys said, obviously being number one, is just the time it takes for the Catalyst to do everything it does. So it's a 6-week program. But I think, well, you guys can talk about it from your own experience. Had you had to do all the things or learn all the things by yourself that the Catalyst helps, like the translation and maybe, how you talk with the corporate world, whatever else you learned, if you were learning it on your own without the Catalyst, how long do you think it would take you? Or do you think you would even be at the point you're at now without the Catalyst, if you understand?
But actually, an important point, because Jacob, you're going to have to answer this one because I don't think I mentioned it yet, but I have not attended the Catalyst program yet. I'm attending the upcoming class here in April. So that'll be an interesting one for me to answer in hindsight, but I can already guess where this answer is going to be. Jacob?
Could you one more time? I'm sorry.
So if you were to, work by yourself, say you never heard of the Catalyst, how long do you think it would take you by yourself alone to learn everything you've learned from the Catalyst program, but like on your own without anybody, because eventually I think you would have got to the point where you're at now, hopefully. Or maybe you think you wouldn't have, either applied at Purdue, like you said, that was something the Catalyst kind of helped you with.
Everyone's experience is so different. It's hard to answer that because it just depends on where the veteran is in their life. Some veterans will get out and they'll get the dream job right away. It's just a connection. They just happen to get lucky, right? Or you can be less unfortunate and kind of have to struggle through it. But I will say what the Catalyst can do is navigate some of those more difficult spaces to kind of line you up faster. So if anything, depending on where you are, as far as the military has the earliest, fastest, the slowest runner. Well, the idea is to get everyone up to speed faster, get them faster, right? So that's what it's going to do, is it's going to position the veterans to be in a better spot, to open their eyes to a different type of mindset that exists out there in a shorter span of time, to prepare them more quickly. So you don't spend the couple of years or whatever getting it, figuring it out on their own.
And from since I'm the director, my role is the director of education, I'm focused on curriculum. From a curriculum standpoint, one of the more important things about the Catalyst program is the wealth of individual information that we bring to the table and the caliber of knowledge and expertise that are either directly on the team already or second and third degree connections to the Catalysts that have expressed interest in taking part or helping out or doing any something with us because they see what we're working on, they see the value in it, and there's some serious heavy hitters that come to the tables.
Well, consider this too is in the last class that I was a part of, and I don't remember how many people were in my class now. It was about 15, I want to say. But bottom line is that of those 15, there are at least 4 or 5 of them who, through the Catalyst, completely switched careers. I mean, I'm talking about one person who moved from Florida to Michigan for a new career that he found through the Catalyst and one of our corporate sponsors. And that was a great thing for him. He wanted to get out of Florida, but he was never for sure how. And this actually allowed him to do that. So there's just probably a prime example there of one right off the top of my head of where that actually occurred and how important that was to that individual, because it changed their life in a tremendous way, because they moved halfway across the country to take up an opportunity that they love. I mean, they absolutely like it. So,
and I'm guessing it had more to do with their hard work and personality fit, and than less to do with them winning the lottery and just, you know, being in the right place, right time.
Well, they were in the right place because they were, you know, in the catalyst class, right?
Yeah.
So in this,
touche, sir, touche.
There you go. So in this circumstance, because he did go into the catalyst, he was able to take this opportunity, and he moved his 4 children and his wife, and they all moved up there to Michigan. And he sends me messages, you know, every other day telling me how much it helped him and how much better they are where they are right now. And, you know, it's a good thing for this family. So.
Well, too, I was thinking, Jacob, for you, like you said, you completed the program in August, and because they had that event where you got to meet with Purdue, is that correct? Correct me if I'm wrong, but you ended up enrolling with Purdue, like
right. So I think that class actually ended at the beginning of July, but through Dan telling me about this program that was starting up in Purdue, it's their executive MBA. I'm not a paid spokesman for Purdue, but you know, that is the course in the class 2022. So anyway, it allowed me to go. He was like, "What do you think about this? This is a great school. It's a great opportunity. Why don't you go drive up there and see?" And that's a few hours from where I live. So I said, "Why not?" And that led to me saying, "Hey, I like this program. I'm going to do it." It started in September. I was enrolled in a matter of a few weeks. And I had switched at that point. I had to change jobs. I couldn't do both. Transportation is a very unforgiving industry. So I also had to get out of that, but I was ready to do that. So it worked out. It was another timing thing, but it was an opportunity that was presented by the Catalyst.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Well, I think that about does it for today's show. We'll just talk about the next episode, what's coming up down the road for the Catalyst program. In the near future, we've got the open house for the Indiana Wesleyan University cohort, our first cohort there opening up. That'll be with all of the upcoming candidates, and then the start date is shortly after the following week. And for our podcast, I think we're gonna try and get either Dan, the CEO, on as a guest, or Jesse's definitely on the list now that Staci's mentioned him. So we'll have to get him there. What do you guys got? You got anything that you're thinking about?
2 quick things. One, I'm sure you can probably put this in the podcast information in the comments below, but definitely we're at thecatalystprogram.org. It's kind of a mouthful, but whatever. And we do have cohorts that are going to be there in Indiana Wesleyan, our partner there. That'll be June 1st, and then onward. We have from there until November. We have, I think, 4 more to do. So there will be space in there for availability. So if you all are interested, please go to our website, and it's on the front page. There's an apply button. You'll send a cohort application. I'll get it. We'll be talking to you soon thereafter.
There you go. Oh, and Jacob, real quick. Can spouses be involved in the Catalyst program?
Absolutely. Yeah. Spouses, immediate family members. We actually are going to have, I believe, 4 spouses in this upcoming cohort in April. That's pretty much locked in.
Excellent. Staci, what do you got?
Military family members count too.
That's right. Yeah.
We matter too.
In hindsight, I will say this, just like looking back, the amount of weight that my family carried, now that I have a son, I see it differently. I have kids, see it differently. It's, family members, you guys are, hats off to all you guys, because it's not an easy job.
I did think of something else too, as far as, and this is going to be a big one. We have an FAQ that I think is now live again. But as far as how this is paid for all those people out there, this is a benefits thing to the VA. Or if you're a guard, active duty, a TA, it's still something that we can work through. So really, it's no cost to the veteran. It's just going to count toward their benefits that they already have earned through their service.
Excellent. Well, I think that about does it for today's episode, everyone. Please check us out at thecatalystprogram.org. subscribe to us here on Anchor. We're going to be, we'll push it out everywhere we can. So subscribe to us, find us, we'll make it known when we're coming out. So that's about it. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you next time.